Okay, so good morning, everyone. This is the tutorial for derivative trading on January the 17th, which is one day before your midterm exam. This is supposed to be a combined class, so I do apologize for being unavailable on Saturday. This tutorial is being recorded as we speak for two purposes. In case there are people who can't come, such as our part-time friends, unfortunately, or anybody else for any reason. That's reason number one. The second reason is that in case, and this is often actually the more important reason I keep video records, is in case we start talking about a topic which I feel is unusually complicated, which will require you to go home and play it in slow motion. And I don't blame you, okay? It's not easy to listen. So when that happens, I also make a video record. In fact, today I'm going to be putting out quite a number of videos for the derivative trading tutorials. And since you guys are all doing capital markets, by the way, I don't mind telling you, this morning I woke up at 6 and I've been recording furiously on a number of recording answers on a number of questions, including tax calls and also synthetic renminbi bonds. So all of these will be available later today, and I will notify you guys. So welcome everyone, and I hope everybody is well. This is the tutorial session for week 6. So we've had 6 meetings now with Xinming. Tomorrow is going to be the midterm exam, as you all know. Do you guys have a class after 11:30? No. All right. We can spend all day here if we need to. We won't. I'm sure you don't want to, but we have a bit of room, okay? So I'll give you some extra attention. So what I would like to do though is talk to you after the housekeeping. Just talk to you a little bit about the assignment, and I want to go through the answers. Maybe not for all the questions. Some of them are so simple, okay? But some do require more attention than you may think. And then maybe just a concept checklist is what I normally do. You know that for any exam. I don't tell you what's in the exam, but I tell you the minimum that you should know, okay, in order to even pass. So that I'm happy to do. Good morning, guys. Yeah. And there are a couple more topics that I want to go through, and these will be helpful for you either in your midterm, your final, or even just for general trading knowledge. It is important to know. Okay, so let's get going now. So like I said, what's new? There is a midterm tomorrow. Did you all know that? Yeah? Sorry, can I grab that? I just want to water. Now the midterm tomorrow is going to be in CYT. So it took us a lot of effort. We couldn't get just one room for you guys. And the reason is normally when there is a class with X number of students, my target is to get a room which has a size of 3x. So everyone can take 3 seats, okay? I don't mean you guys are overweight, you're not, okay? I mean there has to be 2 empty seats next to you, okay? So what we're gonna do tomorrow, we'll be in CYT LT4 and LT5. They are next to each other, aren't they? as the numbers would suggest, obviously. Now, what we will do, I don't mind to tell you now. If you go to Blackboard, you don't have to, but if and when you go to Blackboard, I now have a new class list. I seem to have a new list practically every week. So what's new this week? What's new, I'll tell you, is that I have added, as you can see, on the left-hand side, there's a serial number. Okay, it basically is just alphabetical order by name, and there are 48 students for this course, which is a good number. So if your name falls under 1 to 24, okay, then please go to CYT LT4. So you know where you are. Okay, now I don't mind where you sit, but I would like you to sit with 2 empty seats next to you. Okay, you don't need to be cozy. Okay, that's the whole point. So I think there are more than 75 seats, 80 or 85. So just space out, and if there are not 2 empty seats between you and your neighbor, I may actually ask you just to spread out a bit, okay? And if you are from 25 to 42, so the rest of you, basically, okay? So just go to CYT LT5. Is that okay with everyone? Yeah? You can just, this list is already on Blackboard, so if you're curious, wow, it's really just the cutoff line that, so is Pang Xiyou here? Okay, from Pang Xiyou onwards will be LT5, okay, with Lu Zihui. Zihui is here? No? Zihui and above would be in LT4. Okay, so you can think of it that way. So these are the 2 distinguished scholars. They are the cutoff line. So you think of your name in your head. Is everyone okay with that? Yeah? Just space out, please, and make sure. I don't want people to you don't need to sit together. That's why we have 2 rooms. Okay. The exam will be 6:30. We're going to start promptly to 8 o'clock. And the reason we start promptly is from 8 o'clock onwards. I think Xin Ming has invited a friend of his who is a hedge fund professional to come and talk to you. Okay, so and then we migrate downstairs, or is it upstairs? Upstairs to the trading lab on level 4, CYT 409, isn't it? Anyway, you know, the one with all the Bloombergs. So we're going to be we will be involving 3 classrooms tomorrow. Okay, so first there's the LT4, LT5, and then after you finish, we just collect your papers and you go upstairs. Okay, the paper is closed book, an hour and a half. No, you don't really need your books. Okay, if you need your books, it means you don't know it, and your books are not going to help you. Your book is like 700 pages. Where do you even start looking? Okay, it's mostly about application of the knowledge that you've learned. Some of the topics that we have discussed in the tutorial may well appear. Okay, so Ximing has asked me he's kindly asked me to contribute a question or 2. Okay, now we haven't really talked about much, which is very, very complex. I haven't really given you a lot of mind-blowing mathematical formulas, okay? That was never my point here. So if you are comfortable with things like placing orders or simple option structures, trading calendar spread, which you should know anyway, because there is a question actually in the assignment, okay, which I'll go through in a minute. All right, is everyone okay with that? Okay, so that's on the logistics. Next lecture and tutorial. Next lecture is tomorrow. Next tutorial, if you are in T1, it will be Saturday. If you're in T2, then obviously we meet 1 week from now. So your projects, I hope, are all underway and you're having lots of fun preparing for it. That was the whole idea. Okay. Final exam is March the 1st, Friday, and this is the calendar. Okay, and as we speak, I have finished producing a video for December 22. And I'm in the process of producing one for January 5th, and I will be producing one for today, and they will all be uploaded. Okay. All right. So no, the tutorial for T1, we meet again next week. Sorry, my error. Okay, just follow this calendar. You can't go wrong. Okay. What was I going to say? Okay, this is the projects as far as I am aware. Now, are they all correct? They are, right? If there are any errors, please let me know. Okay. I want to just take a quick look with you regarding the assignment, because I think that the style of questions, some of them in the midterm, are similar to the assignment. And have you got a copy of the solution? No. Well, I printed them out. And I think we will probably just give you the physical copy instead of having a solution floating around in the, what do they call it now? Information cyberspace. Okay. So there should be enough to go around. Okay. Yeah, sure. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. So just, oops.
For each one?
And you can get a copy each. Yeah. A copy each. Thanks a lot. You're like a panda. Thank you. Save one for you. I'll give you one myself. Okay. Now, yes, sure. Yeah. Now, I think if we ask you to do an assignment, in all fairness, we should tell you whether you got it right or wrong. And we trust that you all did it all by yourself. Okay. If you didn't, there are ways we can tell. For example, when you both get precisely the same wrong answer, okay, down to the 4th decimal point, that's one way. Or for some reason we asked, exactly the same question in the midterm, and you did very well in your assignment, but you couldn't handle it in the exam, then we might start wondering why. But anyway, I guess, just as a summary, the key concepts that what have we actually learned from this, okay, to start with? Key concepts we should know from the, from the assignment. Well, I can think of a few. What happened? So the first question is on FX forward, okay? And then you should understand also the difference between cash and option trading. Now, when I say cash, I don't really mean the cash in your pocket, that kind of cash. Cash means trading the actual physical. Okay, so when you buy and sell stocks, it's called cash equity. When you buy and sell bonds, it's called cash bonds. Okay, that's what I mean by cash. So cash equity trading instead of stock option trading. And that I'm referring to question 2. If you can see, it is asking you to compare the stock of Google versus options on Google. That's what I mean by cash versus option trading. Okay, is everyone okay with that? It's just terminology. Don't worry too much about it. Okay, because you hear very often out there in professional circles, people are saying, you know, you might be sitting in an equity derivative desk, and suddenly one of the traders said, okay, where's the cash market for the Hang Seng Index? So what they mean by that is the actual physical Hang Seng Index instead of, for example, Hang Seng Futures or Hang Seng Options. Okay, so cash just means that, you know, whatever market that you are trading with your cash. Okay, oil futures. Now this is an example of a calendar spread. I took a look at the question and I can tell, but this question does not contain the subtleties of trying to take a view on the dividend of a stock. If you remember, I shared that example with you regarding SocGen last time. If you are in doubt, feel free to go, and that part is on video as well. Okay, so you can go back and review that and refresh yourself. But this question, you know, any kind of simultaneous trading between one futures contract and another, technically, especially when you're long one and short the other. I forgot which one. I think they long the first one and short the other. So they long the short and short the long. Any kind of simultaneous trading of futures contracts, that technically that qualify as calendar spread trading. Okay, so the question number 3 is kind of about that. Question number 4, and I find that to be the easiest, is just hedging an exposure in A by using a futures contract on B. Okay, and you do that quite often because there is no exact direct matching futures contract for A, for example. In fact, if you think back just a couple of weeks, when we did that little trading exercise, and I told you that there was index A, and then there is index B, and there's a futures contract on B, okay, but there is no futures contract on A. So that would be, in a way, you know, a similar scenario. So you're trying to hedge A. Well, how do I do that? Well, you use something that is supposed to move together. This one, to be precise, you use the futures contract, and it involves you just applying the hedge ratio, which is a function of the correlation between the two contracts. In this case, the correlation, actually it should be 1, at least in the long term, because actually they share the same distribution, as I said. Okay? Although they are independently randomly generated, if you were to do it 1,000,000 times, you will find them very closely correlated. Okay, so that's question 4. Question 5 is just very simple bond math. No, question 5 is not. Question 5 is still about proxy hedging. Okay, So 4 and 5 are quite similar. You just, for question 5, you just have to figure out not only the hedging ratio, but how much would one contract cover, and then how much exposure you have, and you divide that by one contract, the quantity of one contract. Okay, I'll come to that in a moment. But question 6 is about simple bond math, as is question 7. But question 7 tackles another concept called duration. And I think I will talk about that in just a moment. Okay. Now, question 8 is mostly about commodities futures. I think that one should be quite straightforward. It is, again, it is always, I don't remember these things. I just recall them by first principle. Okay, so the forward price is always the spot price plus whatever net is the key word, net hedging cost. Okay, now that's simple enough. Okay, you can remember that anytime, but what does it actually mean? It means that the forward is always going to be the spot plus, well, what are my hedging costs? If today I have to, if I have a contract with you, you're going to buy something from me, so I'm going to make sure I can deliver. So the easiest way to do that is to borrow some money and buy it today and put it somewhere. If you want a diagram, then this is just refreshing you. Okay, so here is the forward buy, and this applies to anything. So I'm the forward seller, and if you talk about oil, let's say we talk about oil. Okay, so I'm the forward seller. Then, okay, now all the future things happening in the future, I'll put in blue arrow. So in the future, you want to buy a barrel of oil, although they trade actually in 1,000 barrels. Okay, but let's just say 1 barrel. Okay, 1 barrel of oil, and you are going to pay me something in 1 year, let's say. Okay, now, like I said, everything in blue will happen in the future, but what needs to happen today? Well, I'll tell you what happens today. Today, I am going, and let's say the spot price, well, they talk about silver here. It doesn't matter whether it's silver or oil or soybeans. Okay. But let's say the spot price is 40, okay? Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to borrow $40 from somebody. Someone's going to lend me $40 today, okay? Everything in black happens today. And I'm going to go to the oil market. I'm going to spend that $40. And I'm going to buy myself that 1 barrel of oil. Now, all the black stuff is happening today. And in fact, I'm going to put that in storage. Now, here is when the commodities market is different from, let's say, the stock market. It is different because you buy a stock piece of paper. In fact, today is not even a piece of paper. It's an electronic entry, okay? You buy oil, you got to put that somewhere. You buy copper, silver, gold, wheat, corn. What's the other one? Wheat and corn. There's sorry? Pork belly, yeah. Yeah, no, I was thinking of the grains, the grains futures market. There's the wheat, there's corn. So yeah, who said that? Very good. Yeah, soybeans. The three, it's like football style, Huh? What? Green? No, I said the three kings of grains commodity, and I forgot like the last one. Thank you, Chloe. Yeah. But anyway, so you got to store that somewhere. So you're going to put that barrel of oil, 1 barrel of oil away. Now, I think I've done all the things that should happen today. So now we go to the future. In the future, what happens? In the future, first of all, they're going to pay you the, it's worth mentioning that this is actually the spot price, which is often written S little t, okay? Now, so in the future, three things will happen. So first of all, I got to pay back the bank $40 plus interest, okay? And then I'm going to get my oil back, 1 barrel of oil. But not only that, I actually have to pay a fee, and I can call that U, let's say, capital U. I think it's the normal notation. So if you put all of that together, my hedging cost is simply, so the futures would be the spot plus whatever hedging cost I have. Now, if U is a storage, I ask you, what sign do I put in front of the U? Plus or minus? You have to add to it, don't you? It's a cost, okay? So just be aware of that. When you are talking about a stock future, okay, so this is commodity, and the stock future, you have to add the interest cost, but you actually get a benefit if there is a dividend payment. So it's a different question altogether, okay? So just be careful what sign you use. So don't blindly just add or subtract. I've seen people, instead of a minus sign here, they put a plus sign, and then they learn this formula. And when they come over and they start pricing commodities futures, instead of a plus sign here, they put a minus sign. That's because they remember the formula, but they don't understand why. Okay? Well, I just spent that time basically trying to explain this, ladies and gentlemen, is the net hedging cost. Well, in hedging cost. And then so is this one here. Okay, that's my point. Oh, I'm sorry, it's quite hard to read. It's not dark enough. Yeah, I'll use a different color next time. Okay, now let me so here's a summary of the things that you have learned from the assignment, okay? And I have kind of a concept check here. Actually, they're very similar, okay? I just listed a random number of concepts that you should know on top of these, okay? And futures market and trading convention, the difference between futures and forwards, option behavior. WRT means with respect to, with regard to. WHT is something completely different, yeah, withholding tax. normally when I use these kind of abbreviations, they are quite common. So WHT people do know in financial circles. WRT is just common English, okay? I never put something like GFC. I don't like that. Yeah, I mean, we're going to start abbreviating everything now, okay? So this one I don't like. KFC I know. GFC I don't care for, okay? You got me? Huh? Sometimes you can't be so lazy, you know? Now, different option structures, you should know them by now. We'll talk a little bit about that later on. Straddles, strangles, cross spread, put spread. Order types. I'm sorry, there's a misspelling there. ORDER. Order types. So this relates to our discussions earlier. Our tutorial discussions a little earlier. Okay. And fixed income basics and interest rate basis. Well, that actually is partly covered by your assignment. And then option, arbitrage. Now, let me quickly go to the assignment, which is what you have in front of you, okay? And I think I don't want to waste your time going through every question. So I will make some comments selectively on some of these. Now, question 1, and some of these actually I want to give you some further input regarding market conventions. Okay, for example, so question 1 is an FX forward contract. Now, let me just read that out. A trader enters into a short forward contract on 100 million yen. When you read a sentence like that, what is your first reaction? The first thing I want to establish is whether I am short yen or long yen. Are you short yen or long yen? You're short yen. I shouldn't keep asking you. It's not fair. You sit next to me, but you will get a lot of participation points. Okay? But I should ask other people. And other people are very welcome to answer. So you are short yen.
But you should encourage people to stick around.
I should encourage what?
Students to sit around closer.
To sit closer. Yeah, if everyone starts sitting away from me, I'm going to wonder if there's something wrong. Okay? Now, okay, so I think I don't really need to go. It's not the numbers I'm interested in. It's the mechanics behind. Now, first of all, okay, you take a look at this question. In the futures market, it may be that you trade like this, where you are quoting an amount in yen, around yen amount, and then you take a position on that. So the things that often confuse people is, okay, if I am short yen, so that means if yen weakens, I am happy. Am I right? And if yen gets stronger, or if it strengthens, I'm running out of space, I'm not so happy. Now, the problem now is, and you have to be clear in your mind, even professionals make mistakes. So what do we mean if the yen weakens? So the yen now is 1 yen will buy $0.0090, okay? So if the yen weakens, would 1 yen buy more dollars or less dollars? it would buy less, right? So you actually want this number to get smaller and smaller and smaller if you are short yen. So this is the way I think about it. Okay, I try not to memorize formulas. I just figure it out. So I want this number to go down. And in question A, it has gone down. So I'm guessing, okay, I must be making money. And in fact, you are making money. Okay. What's question 2? Question B. How much does the trader gain or if the exchange rate at the end is? Okay, in the other one it goes up. So that's why you have a loss. Okay. I should mention that actually in the interbank FX market and not the currency futures market. So quite often, so the cross rate is quoted in dollar terms. So it's US dollar JPY, which is currently somewhere around, do you know where? About 108.5, I think. Oh, getting close to 109. Okay, so it's about 109. That's the spot rate. Okay, the forwards are normally in the professional interbank market. Now, in the futures market, they might be quoted in this manner, in yen terms, but in the interbank, when I say interbank, I mean when big banks are trading with each other, like Barclays trading with HSBC, trading with Bank of China, so on, is normally quoted in dollar terms. So this will be the spot rate, ST, and then the forward. So let's say the 1 month forward, 1 month, okay, it may be 109. Let's just say it's 109 now, okay, 109. Let's say 22. So there's a bid and there's an offer, 109.27. Okay. Now this is actually, so that differential is just the interest rate differential between dollar interest rate and yen interest rate. So I don't need to go through that part because you should know. I am just telling you the market conventions. Okay, this is how it works. And if you tell someone that, oops, if you go around and you tell people, oh, I'm long dollar forward, okay, you can say that. So that means in a forward market or forward market, you are planning to buy dollars and sell yen. Buy dollars, sell yen. Okay, whereas if you go around telling people that, oh, I'm short dollars, so dollar is always the point of reference. Or you can say, oh, I'm long dollar yen forward. So you got to be clear on the other currency. I'm long dollar yen, okay, or here I'm short dollar yen forward. So the long part refers to the dollar position, and the short part also refers to. So here you are planning in the forward market to sell dollars. You're gonna deliver dollars, and you're gonna take yen. Is everyone okay with that? Yes. There's a typo. Buy dollar, sell yen. I'm sorry. Yeah. Sorry, I need a coffee. Yeah. Buy dollar, sell dollar. What am I doing? Okay, buy dollar, sell yen, sell dollar, buy yen. Thank you for that. Is everyone okay? Yeah. So when you are long dollars, you want the dollars to be strong, don't you? So when the dollar is strong, you are happy. So you want the dollar yen to go to 110, 111, 112, okay? But here, you actually want the dollar to become weak. So if the dollar is weak, then you are happy. So the dollar needs to go down to 108, 107, 106, etc. Okay? That's just the market convention. I felt I should try and share that with you. The question itself is simple. Okay? Question 2, this is simple too. It's just asking you how much it will cost to buy a stock. Okay? Versus buying an option. How hard is that? One thing that is worth mentioning is, and this is a problem, and I did kind of mention it to some of you. When you trade in the U.S. market, and I think China, I think it works the same. When you want to buy stocks, the quantity you put in represents the exact number of stocks you want to buy. So you want to buy 100 stocks, you would put in 100. Okay, that's for stocks. Now for options, unfortunately, it's a little bit tricky. So in the U.S. market, when you buy options, so for options, when you put in a quantity, if you want to buy or sell 100 options, actually the quantity you put there is 1. So 1 means one option contract which contains 100 puts or calls in there. Okay. Isho. Yes, so yeah, lot size. Okay. Now this it sometimes creates confusion. I know I nearly had that problem when I was junior, and I got confused between trading stocks and trading options. So you buy or sell 100 stocks, and then you want to use the options to trade with it, and then you end up you put 100 here. That's a disaster, because you now have bought or sold basically 10,000 options. Okay, so remember that. So here, if you buy 100 call, it really means you have traded one option contract. And in fact, this is related to a question that Jackie kindly asked me last time. And so he sent me a WeChat image of this page, which I think is one of the questions in the textbook. So an investor writes 4 naked call option contracts on a stock. And so I guess the author is kind of assuming you understand American market conventions, which I think also is Chinese market convention. Yishou is the 100 stocks. Okay, I think that is good. I'll explain why in a moment. Okay, it's not the case in Hong Kong. I don't like it. It's all over the place. It's everywhere. So some stocks have a lot size of 100, some have a lot size of 400, some have a lot size of 200. And so here in this example, an investor writes 4 naked call options on a stock. So an investor sells 4 call options, and the option price is $5. Okay, and the question was, where does this 400 come from? Well, this 400 comes from the fact that you have 4 contracts, and each contract has 100 little options. So that's why it's 400. And then you multiply the part inside, which gives you the what is that? Option price. The strike is 40, the stock price 38, so it's out of the money by $2. It's just calculating the intrinsic value. Yeah, okay. But the question was, where did this 400 come from? And it came from 4 times 100. 4 contracts of 100 options each. I just want to make a passing mention of this, okay? Otherwise, I think the question is simple, okay? Question 3. Now, this is the one that involves storage costs. There are no storage costs. Okay, suppose there are no storage costs for crude oil, and the interest rate is 5%. How can you make money if the June and December futures contract for a particular year trade at 80 and 87? Now, my first reaction looking at this is, since they are 6 months apart, okay, they are 6 months apart. Let's say we are now in January. We don't have to be in January, but let's say we are. So June. So I already know very well that my forward, now this is a spot price. So my forward, whatever it is, 6 months later, should be just my spot price plus the interest. And they already said the interest is at 5%. So it would be S plus S times 5%. That's for 6 months. And I already know that the 12 months should be S plus S times, oh, sorry, this is 2.5%, I beg your pardon. It's 5% divided by 2. This one here is 5%. Okay. Now, without actually putting any numbers to it, so I already know that the difference between the 12-month contract and the 6-month contract, if you look at this and this, and you take one from the other, so the S's will disappear. All you're going to get is S times 5% minus S times 2.5%. Now you see what I'm getting at in a moment, okay? So that is actually just S times 2.5%. Now notice I haven't even looked at what S actually is. And as it turns out, in this case, S is 80. So I know the difference between them should be 80 times 2.5%, which is $2, isn't it? Yeah. So in other words, just simply by looking at the time difference between two futures contracts, I can figure out what must be their gap in price, especially if there's no storage cost, which will be a pretty crazy idea, okay? But the difference should be 2. But now they're not 2. They're not 2. They are 7. Okay? So either this one is too expensive or this one is too cheap. So I'm just going to buy this and sell that. And the way it would work is, without going through all that long explanation, which you can look at later on, don't look at it now, okay? But what I'm going to do is I'm going to simultaneously trade maybe with party A. So for party A, That's me. So I'll use a darker color. Excuse me. So in red is in 6 months. So in 6 months, I want to get oil. What am I paying again? 82, wasn't it? No, 80. Oh my God. So what you can do, in fact, the forward price is 80, not the spot price. But anyway, so I buy at 80, so I get 1 barrel. And now at this juncture, at this point in time, 6 months later, I have to borrow that $80. Okay, not right away, but 6 months later, I'm going to borrow that money, $80. And now I can do this transaction. And I put away this barrel of oil somewhere in a depot. But hey, guess what? They say it's free. So I don't mind. 1 barrel. And now I'm going to use, what color should I use? Dark green, okay? So now I'm going to turn to B, and I will sell. Now dark green is in 12 months. I'm going to sell that barrel of oil in 12 months. And guess what? They pay me 87. So I'm going to pay the bank, I'm going to pay back the bank $2. $2 being $80 times 5% divided by 2. So I pay my interest. Well, I guess I pay my principal too. Okay, it's important. I pay 82, but I receive 87. Oh, this oil has to come back. So 1 barrel. I have suddenly pocketed $5. That's the arbitrage, okay? So in other words, there shouldn't be a gap between these two prices bigger than the 6-month interest cost. Okay, that's the key to it. And if you are confused, you can either go back and review the video, or you can actually read this text here. It's telling you exactly that. Okay. All right. 4, I don't think I need to go through it. It's so simple. It's about hedging ratios. 5 is about hedging ratios, but there's a little twist to it. So you determine the correct hedging ratio, and you know how much oil you need to hedge, and you know how much one contract will cover. So this is the number of contracts. So the number of contracts times the amount it will hedge in one contract would equal your requirement. Okay, and if you go to these futures contracts, actually they do tell you. So for example, WTI crude oil futures contracts specification. Let's see what comes up. Okay. So you can go to contract specs, right? So when you go there, you get all kinds of information. You know, if you are interested in trading or the futures market, this is a good way to learn. I used to look through this stuff and it fascinates me, just the convention, and I want to think about every single item and what it actually means. But if you scroll down here a little bit, you should see that oh, these are options. I don't want options. I want futures. You see, contract unit, 1,000 barrels. Can you see that at the top? Yeah, so that's what that is. Okay, I'm going to press ahead. Yeah, sure. In question 4, you think you should short the futures instead of long the futures?
Long futures will fix the price. Fix the versus price.
Okay, now here things we should short the future instead of longing the futures. Now, the key to it, I always think in very simple terms. I think just like a normal guy, okay? I am a normal guy, okay? And how would a normal guy think? You are, here's the key sentence. You are committed to purchasing. You're going to buy something, okay? Now, if you're going to buy something in the future, it can be anything. You want to buy an apartment, you want to buy a phone, you want to buy an iPad, you want to buy some oil. When you want to buy something in the future, what are you most afraid of? You're afraid the price goes up, right? And then you have to buy more expensive. So whatever you do, whether you're long or short, your purpose is to make some money when the price goes up. Now, how do you do that? You make some money when the price goes up by going long or short. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Now, it says a beef producer is committed to purchasing. This is the key. These are the key words. Okay. I tell you when you will be short. Yeah. If you are a farmer, and this happens quite a lot. Okay? If you are a farmer and you are growing soybeans or you are growing pork belly, you can't grow pork belly. It's not a plant. You're growing wheat and you are committed to selling. Okay. Now, if you are selling in the future, what are you most afraid of? You're afraid that the price will crash. So you ask yourself, okay, I am worried of a price crash. So what do? First of all, I take some action, okay? And whatever I do, it has to make money when the price crashes. So that means I have to short, okay? So you see that quite often. The terminology when people talk about futures markets, they talk about the users versus the speculators. Okay, so users, if you are a farmer, then you would naturally be taking short positions from time to time. Okay, but if you are a beef producer, then you would naturally be taking long positions. If you're a speculator, I guess you could trade either way. Okay, is that okay? Yeah. You will. Yeah. In fact, it doesn't have to be stock futures. It's basically anything. anything when you are afraid that the price goes down, even the price of chocolates, cocoa, you know you can trade that, or coffee.
Oh, I saw cocoa.
Sorry?
Cocoa. Cocoa bun.
No, not cocoa bun. Don't think there's a futures market for cocoa. No, cocoa futures you can trade. You know, if you are really interested, and I think some of you should be, because China is such a big player in the commodities market, there are all kinds of really wacky commodity futures out there that I didn't even know existed. Did you know you can trade futures on eggs?
Yes.
Yeah?
I recommend my grandma because
You want your grandmother to trade eggs futures?
they know the price better than us.
I would have no idea how to handle the fundamentals of eggs futures, to be honest with you. You can trade things like milk, cheese, orange juice, onions. You can have a whole recipe, you know. You can trade all the ingredients of your Sunday afternoon lunch.
Actually, compound chicken.
Kung Pao chicken, yeah. You can trade futures on chicken, yes, definitely you can. Okay? Yeah. There was a story a few years ago of a guy who, this was a long time ago, who got very rich trading orange juice futures. And he wasn't relying on insider, you can't get insider information on orange juice, okay? But it turned out actually he was, he worked in the weather bureau, so weather forecasts, okay? And he figured out some correlation between weather changes and the price of orange juice, and then he got a trading system. So sometimes you can do things like that. Okay. Anyway, I digress. Now, question 6, simple. It's just bond pricing, but I recommend you bring a calculator in your don't forget your calculator, okay, tomorrow. Bring it to the midterm. If you want to get full marks, apart from just giving us the answer, I guess we'd like to see something like this. Now this one is using continuous compounding, which you see a lot in this book. But if you want to relate it back to simple compounding, I will do that in the next question. Okay. Now, I frequently see people getting confused between different types of duration. So that's why today when I say we'll review the assignment, when I talk about bond duration, and I say there are different versions of duration. Okay. Now let's try and go through this slowly. So there's a 5-year bond with a yield of 11%, continuously compounded, and it pays an 8% coupon at the end of each year. What is the bond's price? What is the bond's duration? And use the duration to calculate on the effect of the price if there is a 20 basis point decrease in the yield, and recalculate the bond price on the basis of 10.8% per annum yield and verify the result is an agreement. Okay. Now, I think this question, for me, if you want to go to the heart of the problem, you can actually simplify somewhat. But in order to simplify, I have to bring to your attention that there are actually two types of duration. Okay, there is this, well, there is something that people just call duration, which is sometimes called Macaulay duration. I guess he was the guy who invented it. Okay. Now there is another thing called, yeah, thank you, modified duration. Are you guys okay with that? If you are, then I won't spend time talking about it. Who would like me to talk about this? Okay, so let's do that. Now, first of all, my reaction in seeing a question like this is that now the coupon doesn't change. Coupon is coupon. Coupon is 8% and is paid every year. That's it. Sometimes coupons are paid every 6 months. That's fine, but that's not the case here. So 8% every year, that's simple. And the bond is priced with an 11% yield, continuously compounded. Now here is when it gets interesting. So when you price this and it's continuously compounded, you are basically discounting the cash flows of year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4, and year 5 is P plus I, or the par plus principal plus interest. Okay, so that's why it's 108, and you are discounting them back by continuous compounding. Now, my first reaction is you don't have to do it this way. Suppose I give you another yield, is not continuously compounded, but is annual compounding. Annual compounding. Now you have to convert the yield to you have to convert a continuous compounding yield to an annual yield to start with, but that one is around 11.23. And if you don't believe me, I think it's 11 point. It's anyway. Let's check it out. Oh, actually, I knocked out a little spreadsheet, which I will share with you. You're right. You're absolutely right. So here, oh, sorry, not 11.63. So now, if you forget continuous compounding for a moment, okay, so you can compound something. You can compound something, every 6 months. You can compound something every 3 months. You can compound something every year. And the yield, if you were to compound something on an annual basis, is actually 11.63. Okay. Now this is what I often call, the effective annual. Is what you expect on an annual basis. Okay, effective annual return. But you can compound it anywhere you want. And as you go down to 1 month or even 1 week, I mean, no one does that, but you can if you want. And then you can compound it, for 1 day or 1 hour or 1 second. Then you get very, very close to the continuous compounding yield of 11%. Okay, so in other words, if you think about the compounding frequency and the yield, when the frequency goes up, your yield will go down. And that has to be the case, instead of compounding every year, now you're doing it more often. So of course the yield has to drop, okay? Now, anyway, so here I have a little spreadsheet where if I use the annual compounding instead of continuous, then 11.63, and I got that by using the exponential of 0.11 and then just minus 1. Okay, that's the formula on top, as you can see. Okay, now I can discount the cash flows and I would get exactly the same answer. Okay, these are formulas. So you don't have to use the continuous compounding, but it is used here, so I will follow it. Okay. Now, here is when things can get confusing. And I want to distinguish between the two concepts of simple duration, or sometimes called Macaulay duration, or the other one, modified duration. Now, just put that aside for a moment. So don't worry about modified duration for now. I want to talk about the first one, okay? Now, duration, a bond duration is actually a very useful idea. Imagine if you put some money in the bank and it's a fixed deposit for 5 years, which is a long time to give your money away for, okay? And it's just one payment at the end, okay? Maybe at the beginning you give away 100, and at the end you give away 125. Now, if I was to ask you, simple question, what is the duration of this bond? How would you answer it? If there is only one payment. It's 5 years. Who said that? I don't, okay, thank you. So the duration, now, the duration is kind of 0 coupon. Yeah, exactly. Now, things actually get more interesting when, all right, well, maybe you pay 100, but you're going to get back 60 in 1 year, and then you're going to get back 60 in year 2, for example. Now, there are products like that. They're called sinking funds. Okay. Now you're wondering, okay, well, what is the duration of this? It would probably be somewhere here. Okay. Maybe somewhere here. Let's just say 1.4 years. Okay. Now, how do you work that out? First of all, how? The way, yeah, what you do is you just multiply the, okay, what's the good way to do this? Yeah, I know. So present value of all your cash flows over different time periods, okay, multiplied by the time period itself, okay, divided by, this is summation here, okay, divided by the present value of all the cash, of all the cash flows, which of course is the bond price, as you said, okay. Now, like I said, I don't remember formulas like that, okay, but I remember, or I don't remember, I understand what it is used for, and I'll tell you what duration is useful for. Duration kind of tells me just on average, how long it takes for me to get my money back. Now you're going to wondering, but Sam, it takes 2 years. And I'll say to you, no, it doesn't. Some money comes back in 1 year. Some comes back in 2 years. So on average, it kind of takes me 1.4 years. Now here, there's no question, it's 5 years because you only got one payment. But when you have two payments and someone asks you, okay, how long does it take for you to get your money back? You can't say 2 years and you can't say 1 year. Okay, it is that kind of a concept, that I like to think of. And of course, it gets even more interesting when you actually have a bond of some kind. And there are little coupon payments. And then now there's a principal payment. But the idea is the same. It doesn't matter how your cash flows, how the cash flow profile looks like, okay? Is that there is some kind of, I call it pivot point. I don't know how to say that in Chinese. There's some kind of pivot point where I expect, on average, my money will come back at this point. Now, when I say on average, it is because some money comes back earlier, but some comes back later. Okay, so the average gives me an idea, how long it takes for my cash to come home. Are you with me? So if you are a fund manager, especially if you work for an insurance company, this is a very important idea because you have all those clients expecting to live for a long time, so they want to get their money, in the next 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. So you have to have bonds which will actually, serve that function. Sorry, someone had a question. Yeah. Yeah. Very important question. I'm talking everything. Everything. Yeah. All the cash flows. Every cash flows. Okay. You mean the interest rate? Interest rate. Yes. The duration of a bond will change when the yield is changing. So it is never constant. Okay. You look at the bond duration today, you go get a cup of coffee, you come back. If the yield has changed, the duration is different because your PVs are now all different. Okay. Now that is duration, or Macaulay duration, which, to repeat, is often used for measuring, just the average time I can expect my cash flows to come home. Is everyone okay with that? Modified duration is actually related. Now, first of all, I'll define what that is, okay? So the modified duration is actually duration divided by 1 plus the yield over the compounding frequency. I'm using the same notation as in the book, okay? Now, first of all, let me explain what modified duration is. So modified duration is basically the change in the bond price, or the percentage change, okay, when there is a movement in the yield. So typically we are talking about 1 basis point. It is sometimes called price value per basis point. It's sometimes called PV01. These are the same thing, okay? And the relationship between them is defined by this formula. Now, in the question, unfortunately, and I don't know if this occurred to you or not, they never really specified which duration they are asking. And there is a reason for that. Okay, so if you are talking of annual compounding here, so on the for this one, annual compounding, now the duration is 425, it is, okay, so the duration doesn't change because the duration is the average time it will take for me to get my money back. Now, if you want to know the modified duration, the modified duration is defined with regard to some yield. So if you use annual compounding, the modified duration is 3.81. Where does that come from? So it's 4.25 divided by, thank you, 1 plus y, which is 11.63, is not 11, divided by 1, okay? And then you get this value here. Now, if you look over here on the left-hand side, you can see that duration and modified duration, the numbers are the same. Very good, because like I said, so M is the compounding frequency. So for annual yield, the compounding frequency is 1. So here is 2, 4, 12, 52, 365. Now, I don't know how many hours there are in a year. Not as many as I would like. But it's 365 times 24. Yeah. Now, I don't know how many seconds there are in a year, but you can go on. And for continuous compounding, it is really because your modified duration is equal, as Zheng pointed out, is equal to your duration divided by 1 plus yield, which in this case is 11%. But guess what? It's divided by infinity, or it's a very, very big number anyway. Okay, so it turns out this number has no meaning. I don't know if any of this occurred to you when you're doing the question, but if you just look at this question like this, and if you simply use the formula that was in here, I mean, you can, but then, oh, I don't like this. You can do that, but then you're going to lose out on, you know, the subtleties or the relationship between duration and modified duration. I've met professionals who get confused if they're not from the fixed income area. The meaning of duration, or Macaulay duration, and modified duration. So first of all, they confuse the two, and then they don't know the purposes that it serves. Okay, so I hope you don't have that problem. And you can see here, so the modified duration now is 3.81 if you use annual compounding, and the price change would be, if you go up 20 basis points, so the yield for continuous compounding would be 11.2. Now, when it's 11% continuous compounding is equivalent to 1163 on an annual basis, but 11.2 continuous compounding is equal to 11.85. So when the continuous compounding yield goes up 20 basis points, the annual yield actually goes up 25 basis points, okay? So if you want to work out the price change in terms of annual compounding, what you need to do is you need to multiply the bond price, the current bond price, which doesn't change, 86.06, times the duration, which is 3.8%, but now you multiply by 25. Now, if you do that, you will get the same answer. In fact, let me do that here. So price change is equal to the price times modified duration, 3.8, times 25. Now, there will be some small changes because of the rounding. Whoops, that's too big. The change is around 82 cents, which is exactly, well, not exactly, but which is what you got by doing it with continuous compounding. Oh, 74. It's quite far away. Eleven. Ah, right. 83 instead of, what did they say it was? 0.74. No, I put it up 25 because a 20% increase in the continuous compounding yield is equivalent to a 25% increase in the annual compounding yield. So hold on, 1163 to, no, there's a 22 point, I beg your pardon. Yeah, not 25, 22 basis points. Okay, now it's closer. Okay, so the price change here is around 73 cents. I'm going to save this and I'll share that with you. Are you guys with me? Because I think if you, forgive me for saying this, if you do it this way, you run a risk of having an incomplete understanding of the true meaning or the true differences between simple duration and modified duration. Okay, so simple duration just tells you when you think your money is coming back. Modified duration is measuring the price sensitivity. You can immediately see that the two are very closely connected. Yes, they are, but they are different. Okay, if this goes up, this goes up. Of course it does, but they are different. That's my point. Okay. Now I think the other questions are quite simple. Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Question 8 and then question 9, because this thing about continuous compounded fund. When we calculate, we assume it is continuous compounded fund. But it's not given. It's per annum.
It's not given.
Yeah. Per annum is not continuous.
Okay. Jiang, I think we may be confusing two different ideas. First of all, what are the ideas? The ideas are the quote convention and quote frequency. Now, quote convention in fixed income land is always on a per annum basis. So that's when they say per year, or interest rates are per annum, okay? So it's always quoted on a per annum basis. Even when you are quoting interest rates for one day, it's quoted on a per annum basis. Now, the quote frequency, I agree that they didn't say what it should be. I think in the Howe book and in this assignment, quite often they make the assumption, unless otherwise stated, that it is continuous compounding. But I agree with you, it's not specified here. I don't think the answer will make a big difference. No. The quote convention has nothing to do with the quote frequency. The convention is always quoting something per annum, whether it's quarterly, monthly, annually, continuous, is always quoted. When it says per annum, it doesn't mean you need to use annual discounting. No, it doesn't mean that at all. You see, she answered, she helped me out. It's another way of saying, if they are silent on that point, just assume that you use continuous compounding. But the rates are always quoted on a per annum basis. Okay. Question 3. What about question 3? Well, 2 points on this. One, the focus of this question isn't on so much on interest rate costs, but it's on the arbitrage profit. Point number 2 is you can actually use continuous yes you can, but the difference will be marginal. But I guess you should. All I want to say is that you're not wrong. You are right, okay? But if you are busy just doing continuous compounding calculations, you may miss, the focus of this question, which is to arbitrage. Okay. So I guess we pay more attention to this continuous compounding stuff if we are asking you a question like this. Okay.
Because I think if we use
He's asking, what if you use the continuous compounding method in question 3? Yeah, you will be correct, and you will get you will get full marks. Okay. For question 3, even if you don't use continuous compounding, I probably will give you close to full marks. Whereas for something like question 6 or 7, when it is so obvious they are trying to test your knowledge on this, then you have to use the exponential function. Okay. I think the others are simple. So 9 and 10 is just put call parity. This is the formula to use. Okay. I do want to talk about a couple more things. This won't take very long. Now, the first thing is regarding the trading convention of stock index futures. And I actually can, well, I can even show you. I can show you right now. If we go to S&P 500 index futures, see if we can get some live quotes. I think they give you quotes, not options, futures quote. In fact, you can get them directly from the website of the futures exchange. Now, it is trading now. So what we have here, I can't write with my pen because this is a website, okay? But now, as we speak, the March futures contract is trading at 2606. Now you're wondering, does that mean I pay $2,606? No, it doesn't. Okay, there is this thing called index point value, and in this case, the index point value is 50. So 2,606 means the price of one contract will be 2,606 times $50, or I guess the dollar sign shouldn't be here, times $50. That's the size of one contract. Now, I want to bring that point up because when you trade options on indices, and I'm going to show you one now, okay, Globex options. Play around with these. They're a lot of fun, and you learn a lot just by clicking, one tab after another. So here is, what is this? Huh? $2,585. Okay, now look at this one. Just look at the first one. Now, I just told you that the futures contract currently is around just a little over 2,600. Now, if you buy or sell calls and puts, and the strike price is 2,585, just ignore the 2 zeros at the end. Okay, don't worry about the two zeros. But let's take a look at this one, the top one. Okay. And you see where it says 67. What is that? Now this is we're trading a call option that will expire, I think sometime in the middle of March. No, not March, or January. Oh, this updated in January. Oh my God. No, but the contract is for March. See where it says expiration, March 2019. Okay, it's updated. I'm trying to choose an option which is near the money. So the price, the last price is actually 67. Now some people wonder, what does that mean? It means if the index future right now is 2,606, then the index option is 67 points. So this is how many points. So the index option for a call would be 67. So you actually need to multiply this by 50. That will get you the price, okay? But when you are trading the index futures, you don't always have to think about, oh, multiply by 50 or if I have two contracts, multiply by 100. No, you don't have to worry about that. You just look at the index and you look at the option in terms of points. In fact, if you divide one by the other, if you do that, which will be around 2.2%, that's actually more meaningful as an option price. Okay, so that's just quote convention on futures options. Okay, options on futures contracts. The other thing I should mention is that it's not just break even, but when you look at an option, always try to think in terms of option best case, break even, and worst case. That's how I like to think about it. Okay, now, very good. Exactly. Now, for example, so you stock price is now 100, and you buy a call. You buy a call with a strike of, let's say, 105, and you pay $2. Now, immediately you can say, what's my best case? Well, if you buy a call, there is no best case. What is your best case? Your best case is infinity. Okay? Your break even, what's your break even? Okay, 107. Well, don't remind me to give you some participation points. Okay, what is your worst case? Worst case for you is you lose $2. Okay, now this is when you are long. When you are short, it's quite a different story. What's your best case? What's your break even? It's the same actually. No, break even is yeah. When I say break even, I mean where the break even point, I guess. Okay, break even is when you make no money, you lose no money. The break even point happens at 107. What's your worst case? Your worst case is you lose an infinite amount of money. So it's exactly reversed. Can you see that? Now this is easy when you are talking about just long or short, a simple call. But when you start going, long, let's say a straddle, for example. Okay, let me break that down. Okay, so what is a straddle first of all? So I'll start you off. So the spot price is now 100, and what is a straddle? Three people. Okay, Hans asking me which one is the wider one. So there's this one, and there's this one, right? Which one? And what's the other one called?
The word was strangle.
Strangle. Which one is a straddle? Which one is a strangle?
The one letter is the wider one.
No, STRADDLE, STRANGLE. Yeah. No, which one is which one?
First one is straddle. Second one is strangle.
What?
The left one is the upper one. The right one is the lower one.
I'll teach you a way to remember that, and you will never forget. but it requires that you know how to spell straddle. Straddle has two D's, correct? Now, so you get a spelling lesson as well. How do you do a straddle? Is when you go long. Let's say this is 100. So you long a call at 100, and you long a what? A put at the same strike. Now these are the same. So you have double D here. Okay. So when you see the double D, the two strikes are the same. That's one way to remember it. You know what I'm saying? But here, strangle, it could be 105 or 95. Okay, so the strikes are not the same. But back to my question. So if the spot is 100 and you are long a call at 100, now you don't have, it doesn't have to be 100, it can be anything, but let's just say 100, and you pay 140, and you are also long a put at, and the put price is 160. Now I ask you the same questions again. What is your worst case? What is your break even? What is your best case? How much? 3? Why 3? Yeah. Okay. Now, when I say break even, is the more precise way is break even point. Where's the break even point? What do you mean? At what stock price? Yeah, there are 2 points. What are they? Isn't it 101.4 and 98.4? Oh, sorry, 101.4. I mean that, and 98.4. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a trick question. I'm testing if you guys are still awake. Okay. No. Of course you are awake. Okay. No, the break-even points. Okay. First of all, what does break-even actually? What does it mean? It means you don't make any money and you don't lose any money. Now that only happens if the stock rises to 103. Yeah. Okay. So it's not these ones. I was just testing you. Okay. What's your best case? Infinity. Well, if it goes up, yeah, but if it goes down, your best case would be 100. Well, not 100, it's 97.
It's not the best.
Yeah, well, you know what I mean, okay? But now this is if you're long, but if you're short, it usually is the mirror image, okay? So when you see an option or an option combo, try to think in terms of, what is the worst case, what is the best case, and also the break even. And also think about when it'll happen. What do you want to see happen? So if you buy options, especially you buy something like this, you want to see the price all over the place, don't you? But if you sell this, you want to see a really, really boring market. It would be best if it doesn't do anything at all. Okay. Yeah. Tomorrow exam will include the last lecture from Xin Ming. Yes. Yeah. I want to share with you one more thing, and then I'll let you go. Risk equals value of position times volatility times square root of time. This is a very, very handy way of just measuring your potential exposure. Okay. Let me explain to you what this means. Now, suppose you, and this is regarding options. Okay. Now, let's say you have an option and the value of the position is $1 million, and the volatility for the next 3 months is quoted at, let's say, 32%. Now, again, I want to emphasize volatility, just like interest rates, are always quoted on a per annum basis. Okay, even though I'm talking about the next 3 months, it's still quoted at 32% per annum. My question is, what kind of risks do I actually run? And what you do is you multiply by the square root of time. Now, I say here time is always measured in terms of years. Okay, so 3 months is actually 1/4 of a year. Okay, so that would be 1 million times the square root of a quarter, which is a half. So you are running a 16% risk, which is $160,000. Now, you can actually refine this. This is for 3 months. What if you have a 1-day exposure and the volatility is still 32%? Very good. So this doesn't change. Now 1 day in terms of years is 1 over, well, actually you use trading days, okay? And as it happens, the square root of 256 is 16. So this is 1 million times the volatility times 1 over 16, which is 2%, which is equal to 20,000. Now, this is a very, very handy way for you to work out, because volatility is always quoted in annual terms. But if you want to work out what is your 1-day risk, your 1-week risk, your 1-month risk, or your 3-month risk, is always going to be the value of your position multiplied by the sigma, multiplied by the square root of time. And time is measured in terms of years. So if you want to know your 2-year risk, okay, your 2-year risk is not 32% multiplied by 64. Multiplied by 2. It's the square root of 2. So it's 1.41. Okay? Now, I guarantee you this will be useful for you in the future. Okay? I think I'm going to stop now. I don't necessarily mean tomorrow, okay, but just at some point. I just realized I've overrun by half an hour. Sorry. Now, I'm going to save this, and we can talk about this next time. And I think that's all I want to say for today. So we have done a bit of housekeeping. We went through the assignment, took a quick look at the midterm concept check, and I went through a few more concepts, specifically stock index futures and stock futures options convention, how they're quoted, option best case, break even, worst case, And also think about, if you buy or sell an option, what do you want to happen? Okay? And also the relationship between your exposure. This is a one sigma exposure, strictly speaking. Okay. And how it relates to volatility and time. Okay, is everyone okay? You want to ask me anything?
What's the percentage?
Yeah, go on. This is a typical way for traders to calculate their exposure. It is. Would you like me to give you an example in practice? Now, for instance, but they don't tell you the volatility here. They might do somewhere else. If you have a position like this, so currently the futures are trading at around 2,600. Let's just say 2,600, okay? And I don't know what volatility is being used. I can make a guess. Probably around 18%. Okay, so you are running a position and the index is 2,600, and let's say the volatility is 18, let's just say it is 18%. Okay, so your 1 day exposure will be 2,600 times 18% times the square root of time, and 1 day is 1/256 of a year. Okay, now that is equal to, and you can work that out, so it's basically 2,600 times 18% divided by 16. Now if you want to know the actual dollar value, then you simply multiply by, the index point value, which is $50 per point. So that will tell you that, hold on. $29 points. So there is a 1 standard deviation chance that the index can move up or down 29 points. And if you multiply that by 50, that is approximately what? Approximately $1,500. So if you want to trade index futures and you're wondering whether you have enough firepower to handle market volatility, you ask yourself this question. If I make or lose, well, if I lose $1,500 a day, does it hurt in my stomach? Okay, if it does, then don't do it. Okay, that is exactly what risk appetite means, right? Does it hurt in your stomach? Okay. I think I'm going to let you go now. Yeah. Yes, I will. So is everyone okay with that? Because I'm going to stop the recording. If you have a question, I like to hear it, so I will answer it, and then it'll be on the record. Anyone? Otherwise, I look forward to seeing you guys tomorrow. Okay? Do you know where you are sitting? Okay, thank you, everybody.